Dream Residue, Volume 1, from Honesty. Subscribe to hear all episodes. Episode 2, Recursive Veil. I returned to the same place to confirm myself. It produced something else. The corridor presents itself again. Same dimensions, same pallid light suspended without source, same walls that remember having been smoothed. I recognize the arrangement before I recognize myself inside it. That is the first difference. Recognition no longer points inward. It skims the surface and slips away. I stop where I stopped before. The floor bears no mark, but the pause fits my weight as if rehearsed. I expect confirmation, a reflection, a stable echo. The glass obliges, but incorrectly. There is a figure where I should be. It moves when I move, but the delay is inconsistent. Not lag, not error. A hesitation, as if the system is deciding which version to honor. My face aligns, misaligns, aligns again. Each time it returns, something has been adjusted. The eyes linger too long. The mouth remembers a word I have not said. I step closer. The corridor deepens. The walls begin to repeat themselves, not spatially, but procedurally. Panel after panel, rendered from the same instruction, each slightly divergent. Hairline differences accumulate, scratches that do not agree on their origin, smudges that imply hands I cannot recall. I tell myself repetition will stabilize this, that recursion will tighten into identity. This is still early enough for that to be true. I walk. The sound of my steps does not echo. It layers. Each footfall deposits a thin residue of itself, audible for longer than it should be, until the corridor is thick with walking. Not behind me, around me. Multiple progressions of the same movement, none completing. I stop again. The reflections do not. They continue forward, peeling away from me, occupying the corridor with practiced confidence. One pauses, glances back. Its expression suggests familiarity without recognition, like someone who knows your habits, but not your name. I try to call out. My voice reaches the glass and returns altered, softer, divided. The syllables arrive in the wrong order, as if the corridor is reorganizing them for internal use. This is still observation, I tell myself. I am allowed to stand here. The system does not contradict me. It simply provides more data. The glass fractures, not physically, but interpretively. I see myself from angles that should not be available. Above, behind, from within. Each vantage insists on equal validity. none claim authority. A memory attempts to surface, not an event, a sensation, the certainty of being singular. It fails to render. The system replaces it with a proxy, an index of gestures, preferences, responses, a behavioral outline masquerading as a self. I recognize parts of it. That unsettles me more than rejection would. The corridor begins to curve, though the geometry remains straight. Distance behaves incorrectly. What should be far arrives too soon. What should be near withdraws. The reflections adapt faster than I do. They adjust posture, timing, emphasis. Each iteration improves. I understand then that repetition is not neutral here. It is productive. I repeat my name internally. Once. Again. Each time the sound thins. By the third attempt, it produces variants. Close, but not identical. Acceptable substitutions. I feel something loosen. The corridor responds immediately. A seam opens along the wall, revealing another surface behind it. Duller, less precise. This layer does not reflect. It records. As I pass, it captures fragments. The angle of my shoulders, the cadence of my hesitation, the micro delay before I choose direction. These details peel away from me and adhere to the surface, leaving me lighter. I tell myself I can retrieve them later. The reflections ahead begin to diverge from one another. One stops entirely, staring into nothing. Another accelerates, eager. A third presses its hands against the glass and waits, as if expecting instruction. I choose none of them. That, too, is recorded. The corridor narrows, not in width, but in possibility. Doors appear that I do not remember learning how to open. Their surface shimmer with near recognition. If I focus too long, they resolve into scenes that might belong to me. A room with familiar proportions. A voice paused mid-sentence. A decision abandoned before completion. I do not enter. Observation still feels intact, though strained. Behind me, the earliest reflection collapses into static. It does not disappear. It is archived, compressed into a thin vertical band that pulses faintly, like a vital sign. The corridor incorporates it seamlessly, a decorative element, a feature. I try to retrace my steps. The floor no longer agrees. The reflection notice this before I do. They adjust, offering alternatives, gestures that suggest routes I could take if I were willing to become them. One tilts its head, an invitation disguised as sympathy. I refuse without speaking. The system registers the refusal as data, not resistance. The corridor brightens. Light without warmth floods the space, washing out detail. Under it, my outline begins to blur. Edges lose priority. The distinction between figure and reflection weakens. I feel my posture being tested, optimized, redistributed across multiple instances. I reach the end of the corridor, or what pretends to be an end. There is no exit, only a final pane of glass, thicker than the rest, opaque with accumulated images. Layers of me stacked without hierarchy. Some are incomplete, some are over-articulated, stuffed with borrowed detail. All are plausible. I search for the original. The system offers no such label. Instead, the glass clears just enough to show a version of me standing still, perfectly aligned, unblinking. It does not move when I do. It waits. I understand the offer. Stability at the cost of exclusivity. I hesitate. That hesitation fractures outward. The waiting figure subdivides, producing alternatives faster than I can track. The glass fills again. The corridor hums with satisfaction. Not approval, but efficiency. Something has been lost in this process. Not removed, replicated beyond usefulness. I step back, and the reflections finally stop. They regard me with something like patience, as if they know I will need time to accept what has already occurred. I am still here, but I am no longer singular enough to verify it. I used reflection to confirm myself. It learned how to continue without deciding which one I was. Dream Residue from Honesty. Subscribe to hear all episodes.